Hey there LEGO fans, welcome back. Alex here. In this video, we're going to be doing a build and review and placement of the new LEGO Retro Bowling Alley. Now this is not a LEGO set that you can just go down to your LEGO store and pick off of the shelf. This is from the Bricklink Designer Program. It's a LEGO idea submission that reached 10,000 votes. However, it did not become an official LEGO set. However, it got a second chance through the crowdfunding project through Bricklink, where I think 10 or so designs are submitted that reach that 10,000 mark, and we pledge for particular LEGO sets that are our favorites. And if it reaches 3,000 pledges, it becomes a real LEGO set, but it's capped at 10,000 units, and I was very fortunate to be able to get one of the copies. Now this is officially set number 910013. It contains 2,793 pieces, and I bought it for $230 US. Now I pledged that. I didn't actually pay that until just about maybe a week or so ago when I actually saw the charge on my credit card, and I don't think I've ever been that happy to see that charge on my credit card, because that meant the waiting was finally over and it was on its way. So as always, what we will do is a time-lapse build, then we'll do our review and find a spot for it downstairs in the city. And I gotta say, I am very excited to get a bowling alley in the city of Minneapolis. So let's go ahead and get started. And we are back, and here it is, guys. The Retro Bowling Alley is complete. It was an absolute joy to put together. I think it took me between 5 and 6 hours to put it together from start to finish, which is actually pretty quick considering it has almost 2,800 pieces, most of those, of course, being very small. Now, one thing that's important to note about these crowdfunding sets is that they do not come with physical instructions. They provide you a pamphlet inside the box, and that instructs you to go to the Bricklink website and download it from there. So if you're new to the crowdfunding scene and you have a set on the way from it, just be aware that there's no physical instructions. They are all digital. There are 5 minifigures who come with the bowling alley, starting with these 2 associates who look like they work at the bowling alley, a male and a female. The female does have a reversible face. The other side looks like she's got like a really calm and serene vibe going on, which maybe means that she's got that face on when she's taking a break, because bowling alleys are really loud. But we also get a chef with this thing, because this thing is a cafe, so you can actually get hot food, so very important that we have a real chef. And finally, we also have what looks to be a mother and her son. The child in this does have a reversible face as well. The other side looks like he's very disappointed, like he rolled a gutter ball or something, I don't know. But now I will say though, I think we should have got maybe 2 more minifigures with this thing. I think 7 would have been an ideal number with the size of this set. Maybe have a couple kids on a date would have been really nice to round this thing out with, but 5 ain't bad. Let's go ahead and take the roof off of the Retro Bowling Alley to reveal the interior, and this thing is beautiful. Fantastic use of colors, all tiled from one end to the other, and there's a lot of great detail packed in a relatively small amount of space. So when you first walk into the Retro Bowling Alley, there's a number of ways you can go. You can go to the arcade, you can get something to eat, or you can go and start bowling. But we're gonna go ahead and start here in the corner with the arcade. There are 3 games you can play on the arcade here against the wall, starting with this green machine, which looks like it is a driving game. The middle blue machine looks like it's a joystick-based game. And then finally, the red game looks like it's a shooting game, kind of a cops and robbers feel it looks like. And on the other side of the main entrance, check this out. It's a little vending machine. What a very simple but effective design. I love the colorful look at the Lego pieces inside that represent little treats that you can buy when you're bowling. Next to the arcade, of course, is the cafe. I really like the transition of the flooring. You have this very bright tiling going on in the arcade, and then it goes to that black and white diamond look inside of the cafe. And also the bar stools, how they're still in the arcade, so they're very colorful, but of course they're still part of the cafe as well. And that's of course where you can order your food. You get some hot dogs, you got some soft drinks. Looks like there's also an egg cooking there in the back as well. And what's really cool is that there's a back door here, so you can take out the trash when it gets too full. And now for the main event, which is the bowling portion of the bowling alley. I was really surprised that he was able to fit 4 lanes of bowling in this thing. However, I think it's a better use of space having 4 rather than having 2, because that allows more minifigures to enjoy bowling. Now, before we get to the fun of the bowling piece, we actually have to pay for our game. So we walk up to this counter right here, very nice compact counter. We buy our tickets, and we also get our bowling shoes, which are these red bricks up here on these brown shelves. Now, this is going to be my biggest gripe, I think, of the bowling alley, and that is these shelves are just not really effective at keeping these elements on there. So if I was to bump my bowling alley or carry it, those things are going to fall out so darn easy. It's kind of the same thing with the bowling balls. All the bowling balls here, they're fantastic. They look great. However, if you were to rock this thing, those things are going to fall out relatively easy. It's also the exact same thing with the bowling pins, which I totally get because there's a level of playability here. But for me, as somebody who's going to put this in my city and probably not see the interior very often, I would much rather have things kind of held down rather than flopping around and rolling everywhere. But of course, once you've paid for your game and you've got your shoes, then you can enjoy this really nice retro looking couch here for each side of the bowling alley. But I think this thing looks fantastic. I love the look of these ball returns. I love the ball racks. And of course, the inclusion of a lot of bowling balls. There's a lot of bowling balls included in this thing. They could have probably given us half as many bowling balls and we would have still been happy. But let's go ahead and give this thing a try here. I'm going to pick up one of these bowling balls and let's see if I can knock any of these pins down. All right, I'm going to use the lime green bowling ball, and I'm going to just have to flick this thing in, see what I get. There's 6 pins in there. Here we go. Oh, that is a strike, and the pins went everywhere. Now, you're probably wondering, after you've knocked down the pins, how in the world are you going to get your fingers in there to set them all up again because they're covered? Well, check this out. You can actually take this entire section off, and that reveals the pins underneath, and that allows you a lot easier access to get these things set up. Now, mind you, it's still a pain in the bum to get these things set back up again. I would recommend somebody with small fingers who's nice and steady to get those set up again, because I was having the worst time getting those things set back up into triangles. But if and when you manage to do so, you can place the section back over the pins and you're ready to bowl again. So of course the interior is fantastic, but what about the exterior? Well, as you can see, this thing has got some fantastic details on the exterior as well, starting with these massive bowling pins here at the front door. There is no mistaking that this thing is a bowling alley. You're also going to notice 5 planters with some little bushes growing out of them and these maroon columns in between each one. I really got to say, I love the color scheme. I love the way that the teal plays off of the maroon. And of course, that's on the interior as well. Now, what's really cool about this bowling alley is that you have some fantastic detail here on the front, right? Well, if we go to the back of the bowling alley, we also see those same maroon columns and a lot of the similar designs that you see on the front. So it's really cool to see that the designer added that extra detail. We could have had a boring plain back and we would have been fine with it, but the fact that we have those extra details on the back is just a bonus. I also noticed some greenery growing out on either side of the bowling alley. I'm not sure if that's normal or not, but I guess it gives it some good detail. But I also did like that the designer added these nugget elements against the sand walls. It kind of gives it some age and character. I also want to point out each of the corners of this thing. There's really not any boring part of this retro bowling alley. You can see a lot of great detail goes into this thing, and you can really tell why this thing had almost 2,800 pieces because of the detail of this thing. I also like the addition of a few of these utility elements as well as the gas line. It really gives it that realistic feel. And what's really cool about this thing too is that on the back here, you're going to notice that there is a ladder that gives you access to the roof. And speaking of the roof, look at this thing. It is full of detail. I told you guys there's not a boring part of this bowling alley at all, and the roof definitely delivers with a lot of excitement. Look at these state-of-the-art air conditioning units. It is incredible. I like the use of the shiny metallic elements as well. It really makes it pop. And check this out. There's some boxes up here with some bowling balls as well. Maybe somebody's got some sort of interesting operation going on here with bowling balls. But regardless, fantastic looking roof as well. And that is my review of the new retro bowling alley. Again, this was from round 2 of crowdfunding that happened about 10 months ago. So yes, these do take quite some time to actually get to you. Now, round 3 also wrapped up a few months back, which means this is a program that's running very, very well for the LEGO group. It's very new. They're still piloting it out. But I'll tell you this, when round 3 opened up and people started pledging, they sold out in less than 24 hours. It was so fast. So it was a very popular thing. And unfortunately, I can't say to you that you can go out and buy this thing at a Lego store. I really wish I could, because it's just not right, isn't it? I mean, you look at something like this and you're like, well, I want it. I would absolutely love to have this in my Lego city. But unfortunately, if you really want it, you're going to have to buy it from some scalper or on Bricklink for a hefty premium. And it's really unfortunate because in most cases, guys, these Lego idea submissions are, I hate to say it, but better than most Lego sets. And now we love the modulars, absolutely, they're fantastic. But when it comes to building a grand Lego city and getting great details in it, man, sets like this, they're fantastic. And it's a real shame that something like this can't be set in mainstream Lego stores for us to purchase. And the fact that it's just at a 10,000 limit is just too darn bad. But anyway, guys, I have it here. I'm very fortunate to have it. So let's go ahead and take this thing downstairs and see if we can find a spot for it in the city. We've made our way downstairs and we did find a spot to put our retro bowling alley. And here it is in the residential area. This thing was a challenge to fit because of how long it is. It did mean I had to make a sacrifice though, unfortunately. The Monster Fighters Haunted House used to be back here, but that has been unfortunately removed from the city for the time being. The community church is there at the moment. The community church actually used to be the next door neighbor of the science tower. There was also an empty lot next to the school right there, so I slid everything over, and that gave me just enough room to get the retro bowling alley placed right here. Now, I will say that I'm not a huge fan of the science tower being the next door neighbor of the bowling alley. I think it conflicts a little bit, especially with that big retro bowling sign right there. I might have to do a rebuild of the residential area, but for the moment, I'm okay with it. Also want to make mention, when I was moving it around, I could hear those loose pieces inside of the bowling alley flopping around. Sure enough, as I placed it, I took the roof off to take a look inside, and man, there were bowling pins and bowling balls all over the place. So got those cleaned up, and it is now ready for business. Also, taking advantage of the fact that this thing has a very detailed rear end, so if you're down here in the valley and you look up, it's not a boring sand wall like it is with the school right there. However, I will say that the door right here does open up to a cliff, so we're probably going to have to keep that door locked permanently. But other than that, very happy with this thing. Happy to have it in the city here. Of course, in the residential area, I think the residents are really happy to have a place they can go to have some fun. All right, guys, that is it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, have a great day. Bye-bye.